Hi, Gummy Bears. I'm ready to read Chapter 3 of Clementine and the Family Meeting. Look at her throwing this temper tantrum when she found out there was going to be another baby.
Well, I thought about that new baby, and this is what I thought. N-O, no thanks. I yelled it. No thanks, Parsnip echoed. Then he looked up at me. No thanks what? No thanks to more people. Our family is 4. There are 4 sides to a puzzle, so we can all work on it at once. Hot dogs come in packages of 8, so we can each have 2. At the playground, 4 is an even number for the seesaws. 4 can all be together in the car. 4 can be 2 and 2 sometimes, and nobody is lonely. 2 kids and 2 grown-ups. 2 boys and 2 girls. There are 4 sides to the kitchen table, so we each get 1. 4 is a perfect number for our family. While I'd been explaining all this, my brother had snuck over to his favorite cupboard and thrown all the pots and pans out. Like a personal-sized tornado, he was sitting inside the cupboard now, crashing lids together. I pointed to the mess in the kitchen. Look at us. Lima Bean put toy trucks in the ziti pasta, and we used a drill gun to stir the muffins this morning because we couldn't find the mixer. And my rat is missing, which isn't my fault. And so is my hat. And maybe that is my fault. And how is a baby going to help with anything? Now that's what I want to know. It's all moving too fast and we're not ready. Oh, honey, my mom said, life is always moving too fast and we're never ready. That's how life is. But somehow, that's just perfect. She dragged Zucchini out of the cupboard and hauled him off to get his pajamas on. Your mother, my dad said, is exactly right. Things are always changing. That's life. And this? He spread his hands to the tornadoed kitchen. Us? Toy truck ziti, missing hats, drill gun mixers? Well, this is how we roll, Clementine. This is how we roll. He started picking up the pots and pans, and after a while, I went over and helped him. I didn't say, what if we didn't roll for a little while? What if we just stood still? Even though my mouth was nearly bursting with those words. I guess my dad could see me thinking it anyway. When the kitchen was picked up, he hoisted himself onto the counter and pushed back the cutting board so I could climb up beside him. Do you remember how you felt when Graham and Pop moved to Florida? He asked. I nodded. You thought you'd never see them again, and you were upset because you liked having them live just a couple of blocks away. And how did that work out? Clementine answered, good part and bad part. I can't see them when I want to and I miss them. But now I have someone to write letters to and I like that. And they come here in the summer and stay for a whole week and I get to sleep on the couch. And then in the winter we go there for a week and I get to call out Lucky Legs 11 at bingo and drive the golf cart for Pop. And a lemon fell out of a tree right onto my head. And in 2 years, Disney World. So good part and bad part. That's what most change is. Part good and part bad, my dad said. Right? He asked my mom, who had just come back into the kitchen with my brother. My mom ignored him. Did I hear something about driving a golf cart? And what's this about a bingo? My father laughed. Our daughter has a secret life in Florida, apparently. Good part and bad part for us, too. Anyway, I think it's up to us which part to concentrate on. That's what makes the difference. I jumped down from the counter. I want to write Graham and Pop a letter right now, I said. Do they know yet? No, my mom said. We wanted to tell you two first. But we are planning on calling them tonight. In fact, let's go get your brother to bed and then we can call. My mother asked my brother who should read his bedtime story to him, and for the first time ever, he picked me. Really? Not Mom or Dad? Bean Sprout said yes again, and then he dragged me into his room. He lined all his trucks up on the bed to get ready, and he pulled a book from under his pillow. Let me tell you, it was not much of a story. A bunch of trucks lived together and crashed into each other. That's all, and I'm not even kidding. But my brother loved it. As I read, he crashed his trucks together 2 by 2 and then tucked them under the covers to go to sleep. When I was finished, he thanked me. "You're welcome," I said, surprised. And then I looked at him. I really looked at him. Usually he looks like a puppy to me, little and round and always wiggling. But tonight, stretched out long in his big boy bed with one of Mitchell's old baseball caps on, he looked like a boy, which meant our family didn't have a baby in it anymore. My dad held the phone up when I came into the living room. "Would you like to tell them, Clementine?" he asked. I shook my head. "You do it." I flopped onto the couch and listened. My mom sat beside me and wrapped my curls around her fingers. "It's wonderful." "Yes, yes." "July." "Wonderful," my dad was saying. "She feels fine." "Yes, it's wonderful." And then he said, "It's wonderful 100 more times." Finally, my dad handed the phone to me. "Hi," I said, and then nothing else came out, especially not, "It's wonderful." "So you're going to be a big sister again," my grandmother's voice said. "I guess," I said. "Well, I'd say this new baby is very lucky," Graham said. "You are an excellent big sister. Luckily, you don't take after your father at all in that respect." I sat up. "What do you mean?" "Well," my grandmother said, and I could tell I was in for a long, juicy story. I suddenly wished Florida wasn't 2,000 miles away so I could sit beside her while she told it. "Well," she said again, "your father was 4 years old when Frank was born." "Just like me," I interrupted. "I was 4 when Spinach was born." "Well, that's right. But your father was a very different kind of 4-year-old than you were. He was a hellion, that boy. He was practically feral. Your father, Clementine, was a 4-year-old maniac. You, on the other hand, have always shown immensely good sense." That was the first time in my entire life I'd ever heard anyone say I showed good sense. "Would you say that again, Graham?" I asked, really loud. "I'm going to put you on the speakerphone now." "Oh, I'd be happy to, dear," my grandmother said. "You always showed such good sense around your little brother. Right from the beginning, you were very careful with him, very protective of him." "I was? I don't remember that." "Oh, yes," my grandmother said. "You were a wonderful big sister, not like your father at all." "Why? What did he do?" I looked over at my father. He made an innocent face and threw his hands up. "Gracious, what didn't he do?" My grandmother's laughter filled our apartment. "We didn't think your Uncle Frank would live to see his first birthday."
Here's Clementine with Grandma on speakerphone.
"Your father was absolutely intent on getting rid of him. From the day we brought him home from the hospital, I couldn't turn my back for a second. One time he filled up the baby carriage with pine cones." "So you couldn't put Uncle Frank in it?" "Oh, no, honey. Uncle Frank was already in the baby carriage," my grandmother said. "We had to dig him out." "Now, wait a minute," my dad began, but my grandmother was just getting warmed up. "Another time I found him trying to put the baby in the dryer. He said his diaper was wet. Thank goodness I got there before he figured out how to turn it on." My father shook his head with a sad face. "She's a little crazy," he mouthed. "It's all that Florida sun." My mother bent over the counter scribbling something. "And then there was the time with the garden hose," my grandmother said. "Now that was really..." My dad sprang over and grabbed the phone and stabbed off the speaker button. "Well, now, I'm sure we don't need to go filling her head with any more scenarios," he said to my grandmother. "How's the weather down there these days?" My mother tugged on my father's sleeve and held up her pad of paper. "Lucky Legs 11, driving the golf cart," she scribbled in big capital letters with about 300 exclamation marks all over the page. My father signaled later to my mother, then said into the phone, Well, we've had a big day here, lots of excitement. I think we'd better say goodnight now. Love to you and Pop. And he hung up before anybody could get into any more trouble. I headed into my room and took out a notebook. Dear Graham and Pop, how are you? I am fine. Well, not so fine. I'm still looking for the good part about a new baby. Could you tell me more about what a good sister I was? About how I was so protective and showed immensely good sense? You can write on the back of this letter, and also I will send some more paper so you can write a lot. Love, your granddaughter. The only one you have, for now, Clementine. Here you can see Clementine's handwriting.
And then on the other side, P.S. Also, I lost your hat, and I am very sorry. P.P.S. But I will find it. P.P.P.S. Have you caught Mrs. Grocky cheating at bingo yet?